Welcome. We're David and Hillary, and this is our movie POSTview of the movie Snow White, the 2025 version. In our preview, we talked about how this really is not woke Snow White, which a lot of people were calling it, and we are going to dig more into that. But first of all, I just want to make sure this is our first one of our movie reviews that you have found, I want to make sure you know where you are. The previews are shorter, and we do those to give you basic information about the movie so you can decide whether you want to see it or not, and no spoilers. The post view, which is what this is longer, and we're going to really dig into the things that stood out to us and talk about even, concepts and related concepts in society to the movie. This is what we do in all our post views, but there's plenty of spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers, you're in the wrong place. Check out our preview for Snow White. If you're here for all of it, then you're in the right place. Thanks for joining us.
All right. And, I was going to say, you opened up by saying this was not the woke Snow White. But
it's the Snow White that everybody was calling.
Yeah. But if you had never heard of Snow White, the previous version, and this was the first one that you'd ever seen, I don't think we'd even be having this conversation.
No,
I really don't. It was a great movie, in my opinion.
Right.
So,
well, let's start with some of the differences between this version and the 1937 version. There are a few. Mm-hmm. The first one was in 1937. They said that Snow White was called that because her complexion was really, really fair, like snow. And so in this version in 2025, we have an actress who is part Hispanic. She's light-skinned Hispanic, but she doesn't really fit her skin is so fair that it would warrant her being called Snow White. Associating her skin tone with snow. So I think some people had a problem with that just when they saw the previews, and they're like, how could she be Snow White? That doesn't make any sense based on the original thing. And then some people said, oh, well, if you don't think she's white enough, that makes you a racist. And now we got this whole thing going on. So I want you to just think for just a second, what if there was a movie from years back where the protagonist, the main character, was a black woman named Ebony, and her parents named her that because she had the most beautiful, deeply black skin. And then the movie wasn't really about that. It was about something else, but that was her name.
That'd be a little weird.
What? I don't know that it's weird, but my point of bringing that up is if that were a thing, and then years later someone else made a remake and they cast someone who wasn't even of African heritage as Ebony, who had completely different skin tone, don't you think a lot of people would be going, how can she be Ebony?
Yeah, I jumped ahead. That's what would be a little weird. Like if that's what it was about, and then they said, oh yeah, we're not gonna do that. You'd be like, how
have
will
a
you
character
do that?
with a name associated with their skin tone,
Right.
and then to redo it later and have a character with the same name with a different skin tone is kind of weird. So I think that's a valid complaint.
Sure. I mean, I wondered before we went, I thought, how are they going to do this? So
I will say, if you're watching this, probably you've already seen the movie, and right away, first thing, they give her a different reason for being named Snow White. And one of the things that we do when we go to movies is we just kind of go with it. Like, we want to like your movie.
Yep.
Give us the information and we'll just kind of go there with you. And at some point, if it's stupid, then we'll be real honest about it being stupid. But I just didn't think that, once we saw that they gave a different reason for her to be named Snow White, fine, let's just go with it. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, and I thought the same thing. I thought, okay, how are they going to do this? And then right away, they answer that question with her being born in a snowstorm. And I thought, okay, I'll go with that. Maybe in your situation where in the fictional story you're thinking of, maybe Ebony was born, in the deepest, darkest part of night or during an eclipse or something, like that, whatever.
Sure.
So, yeah. I don't know. There's all kinds of ways to be creative, and they did. They found a way to be creative. She could be named Snow White, and that didn't have to necessarily describe how she looked. So
well, and I think it bears mentioning that Rachel Zegler, I thought, was a very believable Snow White. She kind of portrayed a little less 1937 simplistic character, but also like, yeah, it kind of feels like Snow White.
Yeah.
And it's a musical, and she has an amazing voice.
It was, yeah, amazing. I really enjoyed her as Snow White.
So it didn't take me much time at all to be like, you're Snow White. I'm in. Let's go.
Yeah. In this Snow White, a little more proactive, independent. She doesn't steamroll anybody, but she first has to realize that she needs to be proactive. That's part of the first part of the movie.
Right.
And I was thinking about that. I thought, in the story, her father has gone away to fight in the war. Maybe all that time she's still like waiting for him to return and thinking, well, when he comes back, he'll set this right. And then I think she realizes it's time for me to step into what my father always said I would be, a leader. So I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah.
So
I noticed the second time we watched it twice, because we watched it and we were like, why does everybody hate this movie? And then, we have full-time jobs, we're busy, and we both were kind of like, maybe we should see it again and just see if we missed something. And we saw it the second time, and I think we liked it even more the second time. I don't know why people are so mad at this movie, but I did notice the second time through, some of the character development and even some of the plot arc was like happening pretty fast. But then you have to remind yourself, number one, this is a retelling of a fairy tale, and number two, it is primarily aimed at children.
Exactly.
So it kind of fits that. It has to hold children's attention, especially in 2025 when apparently everyone has ADHD. That's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I mean, it was fine.
Again, like you said, simplistic, but it is a children's movie.
Yeah.
And I thought it held my attention. Maybe, again, preschool teacher. But I wanted to talk about her necklace. That was kind of a big part of the movie. Her father and mother had given her a heart necklace, locket maybe.
Yeah.
And on it is inscribed the words, fearless, fair, brave, and true. And these are the words that she's trying to live up to, which I thought, again, these are great lessons for children to learn about. And the more I got thinking about it, I think partly I love this movie because one of my filters is that I have a biblical worldview. And I think some of the symbolism in the movie kept reminding me of things that in this movie, her father is the king. And in real life, our father, God, is the king. And he also has asked us to be fearless, fair, brave, and true.
Right.
And I thought, well, okay, but can you back that up from scripture? And I did. I just pulled a few verses out, but lots of times in the Bible, the Lord asks us to be fearless and brave. Just a couple examples. Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. So I kind of use those for both the fearless and the brave part.
Right.
But then even fair, God does ask us to be fair, to be honest. In the Old Testament, a lot of the law teaches you how to treat each other, treat your neighbor.
Yep.
And Leviticus 19:15 says, you shall do no injustice in court. You shall not be partial to the poor or defer to the great, but in righteousness you shall judge your neighbor. So he does ask us to be fair with each other. And then true. And again, we've talked about this in our podcast with the biblical worldview. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me.
That's right.
And then when Paul tells us to put on the armor of God, we put on the belt of truth.
Yeah.
And that belt of truth is what holds all the other weaponry together. It's just so it's just beautiful. Maybe not all of it. I think probably the shield of faith. But anyway, the belt is important.
It's important.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, I couldn't help because of my love for our biblical worldview, parts of this movie just kept speaking to me about our relationship with a kingdom, with a king, with that, just with those characteristics: fearless, fair, brave, and true.
Yeah.
Good,
At one point,
good things.
the king was referred to as the one true king.
That's right. I got goosebumps.
Which, of that kingdom, but that's how we refer to Jesus.
The one true God.
Yeah.
The one,
one true king.
Yep.
So some really good stuff in there. A couple other differences that I noticed between this version and the 1937 version. It was less romantic, sort of, in that it didn't end with a wedding. So we don't know if Snow White and Jonathan end up together as a couple. They were becoming a couple, or so it seemed, and that's fine. But having said that, they do get to know each other in the movie, and we know that they're kind of falling for each other. They almost kiss before she eats the poisonous apple, and there's definitely a connection there.
Can I interrupt and say that was such a sweet song and dance routine?
Yeah.
At the cottage, and everybody's like, "Oh, what was the phrase they used when they were like, they were kind of alluding to the fact that they liked each other, and like, oh no, we don't. Oh, you're someone special, or your special friend
might have a little something to do with you.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, your special.
We
friend.
could have maybe looked up the lyrics. I didn't know we were going to talk about that, but
I know, but it's so cute.
Again, music really good.
Yeah.
So so they almost kiss, and so I like that there's kind of a foundation for that relationship. And so then this way, when Jonathan does wake up Snow with true love's kiss, it's more believable that it's really true love's kiss. If I'm not mistaken, and we didn't go back and watch the original, but in the 1937 version, I'm pretty sure that the prince doesn't know Snow White. He happens upon her and thinks that she's laying there asleep and really beautiful, and so he steals a kiss. How is that even true love's kiss? I don't know. I hope I'm not remembering it wrong, but I did see some other people talking about it online, and they were like, that was actually kind of creepy if you think about it. This one's actually better, because by the time Jonathan finds her unconscious and kisses her, it's believable that he really had feelings for her, because they already had somewhat of a relationship. It was a little back and forth. Do I like you? I don't know. Are we friends? I don't know. And then they almost kiss. And I mean, it just all made more sense.
Yeah. You said less romantic. I almost think more romantic, because they actually have a relationship where they're getting to know each other, and they are deciding, I kind of think I like you.
Well, I think, yeah, you're right. I don't deny that. Maybe you said it better, but in the original,
is it on tape? Did anybody get that? Sorry.
Whatever. In the 1937 version, at the end, I think that might be the first time that we have a Disney movie where it ends with the phrase that they lived happily ever after.
Oh, that was the first time.
Yeah, and so that part of it was romantic.
Sure.
At the end of this one, we don't get that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even know.
In my mind, they did.
We don't even know for sure if they continue to see each other or how any of that goes. But
they do.
Yeah.
They do.
Well, why don't you talk about Jonathan not being a prince?
Well, yeah, he wasn't a prince. In fact, he was a thief.
Yeah.
Because the kingdom had become so what's the word I'm looking for? Like poor, because of the evil queen. People didn't have enough, and he and his band of thieves in the woods were kind of stealing just to be able to feed themselves. And so that's not great. Yeah. But we're supposed to understand that he and his friends are doing this because things have gotten so desperate.
Yeah.
But he was very interesting. I liked his character, and I liked the idea that people from different stations in life could know each other and like each other and be in a relationship
Possibly
together.
Get together.
Yeah, I liked it.
Well, while you're talking about him being a thief, I want to jump in with something I meant to put in the notes, but I don't think I did, and this is probably a good spot for it. I had read also where some people said that the movie promoted socialist values, which like maybe, but you have to really look for it. And if this is the movie, like maybe that much of it, and you have to look at it exactly the right way, or it doesn't make sense to be socialism. So I thought that was kind of bogus. And what they were saying was that everyone shared in the wealth of the kingdom. Well, look, let's think about that for just a second. In compassionate capitalism, what do we want? We want everyone who's able to work, and everyone who works and shows up and does a good job should get paid a fair wage. And if you do that, what do you get? You get to support yourself. You get to have a safe house to live in. You get to have your needs met. You get to have food to eat. So that the way that they addressed that in the movie was not free handouts for everyone, no matter what you do. It was everyone who tended the resources of the kingdom shared in the resources of the kingdom. And that's not socialism. Not the way I understand it.
I thought they did a beautiful job with it.
It was so good. And they really showed, the evil queen was harvesting all the resources of the kingdom and selfishly, maniacally keeping them for herself and not sharing them with the people who were working hard. So look, this isn't really supposed to be a big political speech, but I believe that socialism usually turns into communism or something like that, where the people at the top have everything and the people at the bottom have nothing. And that was what the queen did. So
Definitely not servant leadership.
it was not glorifying that model.
No.
The movie was showing us the queen is evil. Her methods are terrible. They're taking advantage of people. They're ruining the kingdom, and she got to go. So I don't know where some of those ideas came from, but I definitely wanted to point out that I thought that was the people who said that about the movie, that was nonsense.
Yeah, I loved the picture when the good king and queen were in charge, and you did just see everybody was able to do their work, tend their crops, share their bounty, take care of their neighbor. That to me, again, that seems more like a kingdom of God thing, where you are taking care of not only your own needs, but also making sure to look out for people in need. Because like Jesus said, you will always have the poor with you.
Yeah.
So you should always be looking to help those that might need help.
Right.
So
I could say more about that, but I think we need to move on.
Moving on.
This was the quote live action version of the movie, but the dwarves were not live action. They were animated. And I had heard, that some people didn't like that. I'm not sure exactly what happened there. I had heard there was kind of a ruckus with Peter Dinklage, who is a little person, which if you're not familiar, people who have the dwarfism gene prefer to be called little people, or dwarves, I believe is a technical term that's okay. But in any event, I don't think he wanted to be a part of this movie, and I don't really know what happened with all of that. I have a full-time job. I can't research everything. But for whatever reason, they chose to make a live action version where the dwarves were animated. And so again, kind of like Snow White being Snow White for a different reason, we were like, okay, we're just going to watch this movie and see what Disney's going to throw at us and if we like it or not. And we liked it because the dwarf characters were fun. They were not demeaning to little people in any way. The animation was really good. The animation made it believable. These old men were supposed to have been living in this forest, in this house, working with each other for 274 years. So obviously this is a fun part of the story, because you don't expect that until they say it. But they look like old guys. They look like old guys who still could get it done, because they're still going to the mines and whistling while they work every day. Hi ho, hi ho. Except Dopey, who looked a little bit younger, but
and was adorable.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts of the movie.
And then we find out at the end that he was the narrator. He couldn't talk, but yet he was the narrator,
'cause
which
she
was
helped
kind of
him
a
face
fun
his
twist.
fear.
Yeah.
So precious.
Good old Snow. So their individual personalities came through. It just, some of the choreography I think would have been difficult to impossible to have pulled off with live
That's what I kind of noticed.
human actors. And so again, I don't know what happened with that, but we're just saying, look, we're here to like your movie if we can. It was well done. The dwarves were, and they never called them dwarves or addressed them as that in the movie, so that might have been one of the things. I don't know, but it was well
that's
done.
interesting.
It was fun.
I guess I hadn't really paid attention that they just that
Yeah.
and the name wasn't in the title. It was not Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It was just Snow White.
Right.
But I did try to, because I knew beforehand that there was some controversy with that. I tried to watch and to say, okay, if I were producing this movie, would I have made that same choice? And I did think that some of the scenes, I thought, I don't know how I would have done that with live actors. And so
Could have been done. They would have had to do it differently.
yeah.
But maybe the
Yeah.
vision they had for it, that they felt like that was what they
Right.
had to do. I'm not
that's
really
true.
sure.
They could have done it differently. But
I'm not really sure, but
what they did, I don't know if they could have done with
exactly.
live actors. So anyway,
Exactly.
well, Gal Gadot was the evil queen, and I'm a big fan of hers. I think she's a great actress. Some people said that maybe she wasn't evil enough. I'm like,
Right.
I don't know. If you tell your huntsman to go take somebody out in the woods, kill them, cut out their heart, bring it back to you, I mean, that ranks right up there on my evil list.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I
think-
didn't like her.
I didn't no. And I watched it the second time, like, no, I really don't like you. And I
Yeah.
thought, good, she did a good job, because you're not supposed to like her. She was still fabulously beautiful, and those outfits were incredible. Like, she did a great job. And of course, that's what she wants to be, the fairest in the land.
Right.
And they did make her beautiful in that sense. But at the same time, she was so evil that you're like, yeah, not as pretty now.
Yeah.
because you're not good.
One of the comments I saw was that she wasn't evil enough. So, I mean, you see some portrayals of evil, especially with witches, and they just really, they're trying to just be as evil as possible and with the really big maniacal laugh and all the things. But I think if everybody plays the evil witch the same way, it gets boring.
And also, what a great lesson to teach children. Beautiful doesn't equal good.
No, not automatically.
You need to be more discerning than that, and to know that someone might look good but have a very wicked inside.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to check that off to one more great lesson for here.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I thought the sets were beautiful.
so beautiful.
I hate to spend the whole POSTview talking about what other people said, but I heard the castle was dark and they didn't like it and they didn't like the sets and blah, blah, blah. The castle was, I really paid attention to it the second time, kind of like a royal blue or a little deeper than that with silver accents. I love that color combination. I thought it was rich and elegant looking and very cool. I liked notice early on around the well in the courtyard at the castle, at the palace, that there were a lot of plants out there. It was kind of an English garden style, which everything was kind of free flowing and growing out. It wasn't super manicured. Maybe some people don't like that. I don't know, but I like that gardening style. There were a lot of blooming things. And then when you're out into the woods, same thing. Some of it was just some of the woods were dark and scary. Some of it was pretty lifelike as terms of what woods would look like. But then they integrated foxglove and all kinds of poppies and other poppies, which don't really grow in the woods. Those probably not all of it wasn't realistic, but it was kind of like a Thomas Kincaid painting. If you really know plants, you know that some of those aren't real, and the ones that are real don't all bloom at the same time.
Right.
But man, is that a pretty painting.
Yes.
And so that's kind of what I thought about this.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, the cottage that the dwarves live in,
Yes.
I want that.
I want that too.
I want to live there.
Yeah.
Let's go live there together.
Oh, it was beautiful.
'Cause
And
we are married.
it had the water, or not waterfall, but the pond and the river.
Yeah, it had
little
like a stream running in front of it.
And the animals. The animals were so cute and precious. And I know in some animated movies the animals talk, but I noticed they don't talk at all, but they communicate. And it's so precious.
They try to kind of send messages, and then I almost think I saw someone else didn't like that the animals were animated. How are you going to get the birds and chipmunks and squirrels to do that? I mean,
People are funny.
You can train the Chihuahua and Will Trent to do a few cute things, but you can't make a chipmunk do all that stuff.
That's funny. Okay,
I mean,
birds,
come on.
Hold this dress up and then drop it.
At just the right time.
At just the right time.
No, take two. Fly a little higher this time.
A little higher.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get back to me when you can do that with real birds.
That's awesome.
So, well, here's a couple. I mean, I guess we've kind of been talking about it throughout this post view, but here are some reasons why it wasn't woke. There were a lot of positive, and maybe different people have different definitions of woke, but there were positive family relationships, the mother-daughter relationship, the husband-wife relationship, the father-daughter relationship, positive community relationship. Everyone is working, taking responsibility, and sharing with those in need. It just felt like it all came off in just a really positive way.
Yeah, and there was another one I thought of later after we had kind of talked through all of this. There's a scene where Snow White is talking to the community, and she says, this is what the queen wants. She wants us to hate each other. She wants us to be divided.
Right.
She wants us to fight. And I just think that's a really great lesson. Anytime somebody is trying to get you to hate another person, you really need to take a step back and just to say, why is it in your benefit if I hate someone?
Right.
Why are you trying to get me to hate someone else? It's a really powerful tool. And I'm always suspicious of anybody that's trying to make me hate someone. You got to really be careful of that. Besides the fact that we're commanded to love even our enemies as believers with a biblical Christian worldview. You can love your friends. That's wonderful. You should. You also should be loving your enemies. So anytime someone's trying to get you to hate someone, that's a red flag, and you need to be careful of that. But
I like how I'm jumping ahead, but I don't remember if I wrote this down. I like how Snow White wins the day at the end without violence. Mm-hmm. The queen tries to take over with violence with the her magic sword dagger that she made out of nothing.
It was like a diamond. Like she
it was
said.
like a jewel, but I don't know. It was portrayed that she made that with some kind of magic trick, and then the guy who I think had a form of dwarfism that was part of the band of thieves from the woods. He was a self-proclaimed crossbow marksman, champion, whatever, expert.
But he didn't have a crossbow.
But at the end he did, and he knocked the dagger out of the queen's hand.
Did you love when he took that off the wall? You didn't even see who was doing it, but you're like, oh, I know who that is.
I think I know who's grabbing
that crossbow. Yeah, that was great.
So she was stopped with a little bit of violence, but then she was done in by her own greed and narcissism, and I liked how that was resolved. But I liked, It's easy to feel like, and I've felt this way too, watching the world, like the real world from time to time, going, I don't know how you fix that without, sometimes it takes violence to stop violence, and sometimes it does. But I kind of like how in this movie, the queen was just trying to, I mean, she wasn't trying to give up her control of the kingdom. She was going to keep being evil. And Snow White stopped her, but she stopped her with reaching out to people and proving that she wanted to be a leader of the people, that cared about the people, and she remembered their names and their wives, and she cared about them, and that was what won them over to her side. And
Yeah,
I really like that.
Well, and there's more symbolism to the kingdom of heaven, the beauty, the love, and the care and concern for each other. She was trying to be like her father, and her father was good and faithful, and she was trying to be like him and to just to emulate him. You mentioned loving all those plants. One of the first songs I think we hear is "Where the Good Things Grow."
Yeah.
And I loved that. You know, a lot of movies try to be dark, try to be kind of moody, and this one was just bright and beautiful. It was full of vegetation and flowers, and there was just so much beauty in it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times in this world, we don't see a lot of beauty. We see a lot of the darkness, and I liked it. I liked a chance to just remember and imagine beautiful things. So
Right.
the ending scene is a musical.
The very, very end.
Yeah, the very, very end. It's a musical scene, singing and dancing, and the kingdom that had been out of control with the evil witch. Now she's gone. Everyone is dressed in white. We already mentioned that Snow and Jonathan don't necessarily get married. We don't know if they will or won't, but this looked like a wedding scene in some ways. You mentioned that, well, it was white because her name was Snow. It was probably
Probably a throwback or a callback to that.
But it did remind me of a wedding and the joy of a wedding. And it just reminded me that one day we will take part in the wedding supper of the Lamb. We will be dressed in white, and we will be with the one true King forever. And I thought, I mean, if you go into that movie and you think about all those symbolisms, I mean, I had goosebumps. It was beautiful. I am longing for the day when the King returns, all is set right.
Yeah.
And we will be at a wedding, and it will be beautiful.
Yeah.
Where the good things grow.
Well, I don't know who all is going to see this, and maybe you don't think like we do. Maybe when we keep saying it wasn't woke, then maybe you're disappointed or whatever. I don't know. I don't know where you're coming from. But we listen to other people's podcasts and radio shows and stuff who think kind of along the lines that we do in a lot of ways. And I was really surprised and disappointed. I'm not going to call out names, but I heard at least 3 different people that I mostly respect. And again, we think alike in more ways than not, who really bashed this movie. And eventually they came out and admitted that they hadn't seen it. But they didn't just say, I heard it was bad. They went on and on about how bad they thought it was. They didn't even see it. And at least one of them had a movie reviewer come on and talk about it. And I didn't catch the person's name, but I don't know what movie that joker saw. He was not describing this movie. He said he was, but he wasn't. And that was really disappointing to me. And so I know that at least 3 different shows are run by people who badmouth this movie but never saw it. That was super disappointing to me. And I think they were just going off of information they got from other people, but there was at least one quote movie reviewer that I'm not sure he even saw it. I'm not accusing him of that, and especially I'm not giving you his name because I can't remember it. But to me, all of that was intellectually dishonest.
Mm-hmm. Not fair, not brave.
No.
Not true.
Definitely not.
Movie.
Well, I kind of think what they were doing was reviewing what they heard about the movie.
Mm-hmm.
but they were doing it as if they were reviewing a movie they saw, even though they later admitted that they didn't. So I was glad they at least admitted that they hadn't seen it. But why do you have so many bad things to say about something you haven't seen? Give me a break. Be better. I think sometimes people see what they want to see. You can have 2 people or 10 people go see the same movie and all
Sure.
come out with different ideas
Sure,
about
different
it.
worldviews,
And that's
different filters.
understandable to a certain extent. But if you go into it with a certain paradigm or a certain worldview, then maybe you don't even actually watch what's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even really let yourself watch it. You are just waiting, like, I'm supposed to hate this movie, so I'm only going to look for the things that make me hate it. And the things that I'm not even sure of why I hate it, I'm going to figure out a way to hate it so that I can tell people this is a terrible movie because I was kind of told that I'm supposed to hate it and I don't want to come out looking bad. I mean, just be honest.
Right.
Especially if you're a reviewer or if you're a show host and you're someone that people are supposed to be able to count on, tell the truth. And if they don't agree with you, that's fine. But have the courage to be intellectually honest.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's even possible maybe they were. Okay, let me back up. I think Disney adjusted this movie. I think there were
so.
previews that came out or like, what do they call the movie when they're not quite done with it?
Well, I don't know exactly how it happened, but I think there were some early forums, or maybe sometimes when some groups are making a movie, they'll float early copies and they'll even bring in people to see it to get a reaction. Do you like the way this is going? Are we good? Should we change something? I don't know exactly what happened, but there were some earlier things that came out and people freaked. And then I think Disney changed a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, so possibly.
I don't know all the details on that, but I think that basic thing is true.
People could have seen those early copies and just assumed all those things were still in the movie.
Yeah.
But I do think that Disney adjusted on the fly. They found out, hey, these things they're not going well. And I think they changed it. I think they should get credit for that. I think they ended up putting out a pretty good movie.
Right. Well, I think so too. And I think maybe some of these reviewers reviewed the movie they thought Disney was going to make rather than the movie that Disney actually put in theaters. Here's my thing. If you're a conservative or somewhat conservative, if you claim to be a Christian, which you may not, but if that's your mindset and you're concerned that Disney has missed the boat on some things recently, when they get it right, shouldn't they get credit for getting it right? When they get it right, shouldn't you spend your money to go see it so that they get rewarded for getting it right, so that they'll know, like, oh, there's actually something in this for me if I make movies that this segment of our population wants, because then you get more of what you want. I mean, isn't that kind of how it's supposed to work? You talk about a democracy, you vote with your dollars. So you say, Disney, don't make woke Snow White. We don't want it. So then they go in and they scramble around and they actually put out a really great movie that's fun, that has good family values, that has great music. And then people who don't even go see it tell you not to see it because they don't even know what's in it. And it is doing miserably in the box office. And look, I don't make anything if you go see Snow White. I don't really care if you see it or not, except that I just hate the dishonesty of it. And I know kind of how the world works. And so if you were thinking, I kind of wanted to see it, but everybody was telling me not to waste my time and money, please go see it.
Yeah.
It's still in theaters. Go see it. I mean, maybe by the time you see this, it's not in theaters. Stream it. It's worth your time. And Disney listened and changed it and made a pretty good movie. And I think that, they should get the signal that we appreciate that and we would like more of this. So to me, that's kind of an important thing. Rachel Zegler, who played Snow White, is young and super impressionable. And I heard, not even related to this, but 2 or 3 sources recently said a version of this which is an old quote. If you're under 30 and you're not a liberal, you have no heart. If you're over 30 and you're still a liberal, you have no brain. Okay, so I just poked the bear with a bunch of people. I'm not even really trying to make that point, except to say the older you get, you kind of understand a little more about how life works and how the world works, and some of your perspectives change. I turned 60 this year. I don't care what a 23-year-old thinks about the world because I know they don't know anything yet. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to tick off everybody, but you really don't. You think you do, but you don't. I don't go to the movie to support Rachel Zegler's views of the world. I go to see if Disney made a good version of Snow White, and they did. And so in these interviews,
and she was fabulous.
She was so good.
So good.
So believable, and an amazing voice. So, I have friends who have said, I won't see a movie with George Clooney in it because I don't like his politics. I have a friend who does not want to see anything with a certain actor in it because he is a Christian Scientist. And if I pay money, he makes money, and I'm supporting his lifestyle, and he's promoting Christian Science, and I really hate that. I'm like, wow, man. That's a lot. So let me get this straight. You don't buy burgers at the local McDonald's because the owner doesn't see everything in the world exactly the same way you do. You don't buy clothes from a certain place that sells things that fit you well and are your style because there's 3 people on the board of directors that don't share your views on this or that. I mean, be careful. How far are you going to go with this? I guess it's easy to take a stand about a famous actor or actress that's putting themselves out there politically or religiously or whatever. And look, you're a free agent. You can do what you want. But seriously, there aren't that many good movies out there. If it's a good movie, Tom Cruise is the name I couldn't think of. Just go see the Tom Cruise movie. I can't wait for the last Mission Impossible in May. It's going to be really good, I'm sure. I hope he finds Jesus and understands Christian Science isn't the way, but I'm not going to not see Mission Impossible because he's in it. You do you, but that's where I'm coming from. And I think some of these people that gave Snow White horrible reviews were because of some of the things that Rachel Zegler said, which honestly and truly I think has 0% to do with whether that movie is good and family friendly and that your kids would enjoy it without being bombarded with bad things.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, we've said it so many times. We really try to go into a movie knowing as little as possible so that we can just judge the movie on its own merits.
Yeah.
We're not judging the movie on our pre-ideas of the actor or the people involved with it. They made a movie. We want to judge the movie.
Yeah.
And that's what we did.
Tell me a good story, make it artfully, and make me love it.
Mm-hmm.
And we loved this one.
Yeah, we loved it.
So, well, it's officially our longest post view ever. And but that's what we do. We talk about the movie, but we also talk about the things that it makes us think of and how it relates to the real world. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you stuck with it to the end. You get a gold star.
You're amazing.
Thank you for being with us. Your time is valuable, and we appreciate you sharing it with us.
Yes.
And we'll keep doing the same kinds of things. We hope you'll join us in the future. But for now, we're David and Hillary.
The movie was Snow White, and that's our post view.